everybody, and welcome to another episode of How Did You Show, the podcast which is was created mainly for property beginners, but now we're having a audience of people are experiencing property, etc. So this is very, very exciting. We're building the group of fans actually listening to the show. For those who's listening to my show, they know that I haven't made any new podcast episode for just over 2 months due to personal circumstances, but now we're back and I have a fantastic guest with me, which I can't wait to introduce to you. He is an expert in service accommodation, expert in HMOs, expert in rent to rent, and so much more, as well as he has his own training company. I can't wait to introduce you, Chris Peel. Hi, Chris, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Lenka, thanks very much for a very flattering introduction.
I'm very excited that you came on the show. We've been trying to do this now for a while, haven't we?
Yeah, like 6 months.
I'm glad that we've made it. So yeah, I have as people, before they click on the show, so they will see the name, but I'm just going to mention it. That one of the reasons you're here today to share your very fascinating story of how you got to 110 property deals in less than 5 years. This is so impressive, and I can't wait to hear more.
Thank you.
But for those who don't know you, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about who is Chris?
Yeah, of course. So firstly, thank you very much for having me. I was always flattered to be invited for an interview. So so my name is Chris Peel. I'm based in Leamington Spa. I run several property businesses spread between London, Bedford, Luton, Coventry, Derby, and Birmingham.
Wow.
And Newbury as well. And they focus predominantly on service departments and HMOs. Now, we also have another side to our business. So we also have our training business, where we help other people, and our aim is to help people start and scale their property business starting from scratch. Or if people have already got a property business, then how they can take that, implement better systems, better processes, better marketing, and basically improve the business and grow it much more rapidly than they would be able to do just doing it by themselves. So that's two sides of our business. Now, our main thrust at the moment, and kind of one of the things I'm really excited about at the moment within my property business, is our brand Trade Stays. Now, Trade Stays is a specialist service department brand that focuses on delivering a contractor accommodation. So we have our own properties, obviously kind of all over the place. As I've mentioned, we've got properties in various different towns and cities.
That's incredible.
Thank you. So, but we also have a lot of partners. So we have, I think currently we've got 600 people who are accommodation providers registered for our referrals.
Wow.
And collectively across the group, there's about 3,000 properties that we can kind of place bookings to or refer bookings to.
Oh.
So our main ambition with this is to really become like the booking.com of the contractor world. We want to be like the go-to contractor accommodation provider. So we're really trying to build up a lot of presence in that market and trying to encourage people to register their properties so that we can pass bookings on to them as well.
Fantastic. That's very impressive. You guys do a lot. When do you sleep? You're also a father of one. You have a new baby as well. How old is she now?
Emily is currently, where are we? It's May. So she's 17 months.
My gosh. Yeah, you're also a father of a little baby. Oh, that's impressive. How do you do it all?
I work a lot. I don't do it all myself. I mean, this is kind of a large part of what we'll talk about later in this interview when we're talking about how I've done 110 deals is,
Sure.
You don't do that by yourself. You recruit, you grow a team, you get partners, you get outside help. So yeah, I mean, I'm happy to lift the lid and kind of talk in detail about that.
Yes, please. We'll get to that. Yeah, definitely. So excited. And that's very, very impressive. And for those actually who don't know, you are also married to a girl who is from the same country than I am, from Slovakia. Can you say anything in Slovakian?
Oh, yeah, I'm fluent in Slovakian.
Really? Tell me something. I will be very impressed because my boyfriend tried to learn Slovakian, and as much as he really, really tried, and he did, failed massively because it's such a difficult language. It really is.
It is a tricky language. I am trying to learn, actually. So I have downloaded an app. Every time, I find the best way to learn, though, is not from the apps. It's actually every time we go there, I pick up new words, new phrases, and that's where I get most of it from, I think, is just by being there. But it's funny how I think she's got a very similar name to you. So you're Lenka, she's Yanka. And I think you've basically got the same birthday as well, right?
Yes, she's 19th of August.
19th of August.
Yes, I'm 17th.
So it's pretty close. It's pretty close. Where in Slovakia are you actually from? Which part?
West. East. Hold on, west. Yes.
Can't remember. I haven't been there in so long.
It's such a small country. Such a small country. I don't think it even makes any difference. Yes. Where did Anyanka? I think as well, no?
So you're out towards Bratislava or further north than that?
Opposite.
Oh, you're the east then?
Oh, then yes. Oh, that's really bad. See, I opposite to Bratislava, the other side.
Košice way then, yeah?
Yes.
There you go. That's actually the first place I ever went in Slovakia on a business trip, was to Košice when I was still working in employment. Oh,
really? What did you do? How did you go to Slovakia? I mean, what was your? That's again just a little bit more about Chris. Like, what did you do prior property?
Previous to property, I was a management consultant, but that's not the job that took me to Slovakia. It's the job before that, which was my first job out of university when I was working for the car company Jaguar Land Rover. And I was in their procurement team. So I was responsible for like negotiating the commercial contracts on supply of parts for the cars.
Amazing.
So yeah, it was really good actually, because you got to travel loads. That was one of the best things about that job, is you got to travel quite a lot into like foreign places, not just down to Southampton, which I did a lot with PwC.
That's cool. That's well cool.
So I was in Slovakia for actually, you'll like this story. So I was in Slovakia the first time was to go and visit one of the people who was bidding on a piece of work that I was trying to source for. So I had to go and view their factory, make sure it was like all above board, make sure that that they were treating their employees correctly, and basically do all the checks, and had the quality engineers with me as well to come and actually check the manufacturing process.
Exciting.
But when we got there, we were taken up to the boardroom, and we kind of sat around, and they introduced us, and then they wheeled out these two people, beautiful people. And it turned out that the girl who was dressed in head to toe in like really traditional Slovak outfit. She was Miss Slovakia 2008. So yeah, and the guy was just like a handsome, chiseled guy. And they brought us this tray of shots, but it wasn't shots; it was just water. They said, "I know, right?" But they were like, "We've got to have a shot for our health, and you have to have two because you have to have one for each leg, right?"
Of course.
Of course. So we had 2 shots of this water. And then we're like, right, another tradition we have here in Slovakia is you have to have this bread and put some salt on the bread, and we have this for our health. I don't know what I was thinking, but I took this piece of bread and I just put a pile of salt onto it.
Oh, wow!
I don't know why. I don't know what I was thinking. I put it in my mouth and I realized instantly, I was like, what? Why did I do that? Now what do I do? It's like everyone's looking at me. I'm going to have to style this out. I'm going to have to play with it, right? So I'll just, yeah, really nice. Thank you.
Good salt. Can I have more shots?
I was like, what was I thinking?
Chris, that's brilliant.
But that was my first experience in Slovakia.
Do you thinking that Slovakian shots are not very strong because they give you water? So you
think, right, exactly.
Might not be that salty. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah. Brilliant. I love that. So yeah, so you do have experience with Slovakia as well, which is amazing. We got that in common.
Trying to learn the language, but like you said, it is quite hard. But I understand a lot more than I can say. You know what I mean? I can, like, if I listen to a conversation, I know what's going on. But if I want to try and find the words to reply, that's when I start to struggle.
Yeah, that's quite common. Yeah, when you're learning any language, it's easier to understand and actually make conversations yourself. But I'm sure you will get there. You're a very smart man.
Thank you very much. I'm trying. But yeah, like you say, it's kind of a tricky one.
It is very tricky. It is very
What
tricky.
makes it really tricky is how you change the word. It's like, it can be the same word, but different context. It's almost like a completely different word.
Oh, completely. We change the end of the word with any sentence. Like, it just doesn't make any sense trying to explain that to people. And when they said, but why? And I'm like, I don't know. It doesn't make sense. It's like, I don't know. It's like the people who were making Slovakian language, I bet, like, we used to make the joke that they were probably drunk when they were making the language because it doesn't make any sense. Then I found out through my brother that they were actually those 3 men who created the language, that they were apparently very well known for being alcoholics, pretty much. So that explains a lot.
That's why it makes no sense. Here's a bit of trivia for you as well, actually, Slovak trivia as well, though, Lenka, is that Janka's town, Revuca, is actually home to the first Slovak gymnasium as well, the grammar school, the first Slovak grammar gymnasium. So yeah, that's their claim to fame.
Nice. Well, I did not know that. Thank you very much. It's amazing that you can teach me something about my own country. I love it.
Okay. You going back there this summer or not?
Pardon?
Are you going to go there this summer or not?
Not in the summer. I think we'll go because my mom's 60th birthday is in autumn. So I think I'm going to skip the summer because of how busy my service accommodation business will be in Norway. Yeah. We're going to be so busy. So yeah, as soon the summer's over, September, I'm going to see my family.
Nice.
When are you going next?
We're going to head out there in June. So Yanka's going for a little bit longer than me. She's going to be going for like a month. I'm heading out for like 12 days.
Nice.
Just because obviously I'm a little bit busy. So yeah, let her go and spend some time with the family. Then I'll come over, and she has a nice little. We have almost like a cottage up in the mountains there. So we're going to go and spend some time there as well because they just finished a refurb on it. So we've got to get all the furniture back in. So I'll be going over there to do some work apparently.
So it's not a relaxing holiday.
No, never is.
It never is. In Slovakia, it never is relaxing holiday. Forget that. Exactly. If you want to relax, go opposite to Slovakia.
Exactly.
Brilliant. Oh well, really nice. Well, I'm glad that you. I'm glad that we like you enjoying your time when you go there as well, and you know so much about Slovakia as well. It's really refreshing to find someone who knows so much about my country. So that's really cool.
Yeah, you're never kind of, the thing about Slovakia is like it's never on the top of people's agenda for tourist spots, is it? And yet it's such a beautiful country.
One of the most beautiful ones, and I traveled a lot. Yeah, like, it really is. Proud to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, the mountains are spectacular. So if you're watching this and you fancy a summer holiday,
you know where to go. Oh, winter holiday? No, summer holiday, come to our essays. Winter holiday, go to Slovakia. Right. This summer, come to our essays.
Exactly. Staycation this summer. Next year, go to Slovakia.
Yeah, brilliant. Right. So, Chris, shall we go back to the property?
Because we've got miles off course here, haven't we? Yeah.
Yeah, but it's really good because we, it's nice to just have a little chat as well, and get to know each other, and especially for the listeners as well, like get to know a bit more Chris. So that's about Chris. So that's really, really good. So, Chris, I always ask every single of my guests, just so we understand a bit more about the mindset. How did you start in property, and why property? Why did you choose property?
Well, great question. So for me, to start with, it was never about property. I wasn't at all interested in property beyond like Homes Under the Hammer. I used to love that show, but that's kind of all I really thought property investing was. I didn't really know about rent to rent, didn't know what HMOs were, didn't know about buy, refurb, refinance. All I kind of knew about property investing was you could buy something, add value to it, and sell it. So for me, property never really featured on the agenda that highly, other than kind of a passing interest. And most of my focus was actually on trying to be a corporate success, if that makes sense. I thought that to build a lifestyle that I would consider myself a success in would mean climbing the corporate ladder and getting to the top of a really big company. And that's everything that I kind of set myself up to do, was to go down that route. And it wasn't until I started doing the jobs that I thought were the jobs I wanted to do that I realized, actually, you know what, maybe this isn't what I want at all. And, I talk about the career at Jaguar Land Rover being really great for travel. And it was. I got to travel. I pretty much saw every country in Europe. I got to go to India. I didn't go to Japan in the end because the trip got cancelled, but like I had the opportunity to go to Japan. So there was a lot of travel there, which was really exciting. But then I found myself very kind of restricted because the team I was in was a very small niche team within the company, and I was finding it hard to promote myself within the company and meet the right people to advance your career. So I moved, and I quit that job, and I went down to London. I got offered an opportunity at PwC, which is one of the biggest consulting companies in the world. So I thought, amazing, like I've got JLR on my CV, now I've got PwC on my CV. This is looking like a good CV right now.
Yeah, fantastic.
And that was kind of my dream job as well. The whole time I was working through university, all I wanted to do was be a management consultant. I was like, that sounds awesome. Like, go in, look at any different company, figure out how it works, figure out how they can do it better. But then the reality is very, very different. So my first job at PwC, I was posted down on, and I'm not naming the city, just I don't know if there's some kind of confidentiality rules that I've still got to comply with, but a city on the south coast. And my first job was to help them meet their new central government budget. So this was back in like 2014-ish, sometime around then, around 2014, when austerity was like a big thing and all the local governments were having their budgets slashed. So I had to go and advise this local council, was part of a team that had to advise this local council of how they could save money. Now, what does cost cutting really mean? It means job losses. So we were basically there to decide who kept their job and who didn't. And yeah, so it's not. Sorry, I'm just looking outside. There's like a massive hailstorm just emerged out of nowhere from outside my window. Yeah, it might be the end of the world. I'm not entirely sure.
Global warming is crazy, isn't it? You literally have a beautiful day.
Global warming doesn't exist. Donald Trump says so.
Oh yeah, of course. Of course it doesn't. I was about to say something, then I realized I don't know if I can say anything about Trump. Like, he'll keep it.
I'm going for it. I
think we have the same opinion. I think I got it.
We're there. Maybe just edit that bit out. The live can have that. The recording, maybe not. But anyway, that was my first experience of being a management consultant, and I'd walk into the office each day, and everyone that was there hated us, like, and rightly so, right? We were there to decide who kept their jobs and who was expendable or not, affordable.
Oh, that's, as much as it sounded really well in the beginning, then you suddenly realize, like, oh, my job is to do something like this.
Exactly. And then apparently I did a good job on that one. So I did a good job. I got promoted within the company onto what was quite a prestigious project for them at the time, like a very high value one, lots of money being thrown at it by the client. And again, that was to go in and do cost savings, but this time it was cost savings from the supply chain. So it was a bit more what I was used to at Jaguar Land Rover, looking at how they were making stuff and how they could improve the cost efficiency of what they're making. But the trouble was, the things they were making were bombs and missiles. So again, the outcome being, the bigger picture being, that we're just reducing the cost of blowing someone up.
Ooh.
So it's kind of hard to get enthusiastic and kind of go home after a day's work and gone, yeah, I've made a good difference today.
I had a good day. I made a difference.
I've contributed to the world. That was kind of my first experience, and that was like very much at that time I started to think, well, have I made just like a gigantic mistake? Am I, I'm not proud of the work I'm doing. Even when I do a good job, I feel like, well, so what? What's the bigger picture?
Job satisfaction is hugely important. It's where you go every day in your life. I mean, minimum 5 days a week. You spend the biggest majority of your time there. You need to be satisfied with what you're doing.
Exactly. But it kind of, there was one, and I tell this story as part of our on our training events as well, because there was one moment when all of that changed, and I realized that, do you know what, this isn't the way forward. This isn't the path I want to go on. And it was when I was coming back into London. So I was living in London at the time. I was coming back into London on a Friday night. And this was like miracle day, because not only had the train turned up on time, but there was a seat available on this train as well. It was the Gatwick Express coming back from Gatwick Airport. And sat across from me, when I sat down on this train, sat across from me was the guy who hired me for the role at the company in the first place.
Wow.
And this was, like, Fate was talking to me this day. So this guy was basically everything I wanted to be. Okay, so he'd just got to the director of the company. He'd just been promoted like a couple of months earlier, and he was like everything I aspired to be. He was like super hardworking, really respectful, like always had time for the staff. Got where he got because he deserved to get there. Do you know what I mean? Like sometimes in companies, you look at people in the top positions and go, "How have you bullshitted your way there?" Yeah.
How did that happen?
How has this happened?
Yeah.
He was like the opposite of that. He was like, you need to be there. You're in the right role here.
Yeah.
And I hadn't seen him since he'd been promoted. So I kind of took the opportunity to congratulate the guy. Told him, we'll call him Matt. His name's not Matt, but we'll call him Matt for the purposes of this. I told him, Matt, look, I'm so happy for you. You've got to where you wanted to get to. No one deserves it more. Like, you're absolute inspiration for me. And he was like, yeah, thanks, Chris. I was like, well, what's the matter?
Happy.
Yeah, I was like, what's the matter? Yeah, because when you congratulate people, they smile, right? They light up. But he was just like stony faced. He was just stony faced, and he was saying, I said to him, "What's the matter?" And he said, "Look, I know I should be happy." And I'll never forget these words. He's like, "I know I should be happy." And I was like, "So what's the problem?" He's like, "I've worked for the last 40 years to get to where I am now. I've kind of put in the overtime. I've sacrificed the family trips away, cancelled holidays at last minute, missed birthdays, etc. I should be over the moon because I've got, all that sacrifice, and I've got to where I wanted to be." I was like, "So what's the problem?" He's like, "Well, the problem is like now, because of all the extra stress, the extra pressure, the extra time I have to spend working just to keep up with the role, I've had to sell my 5-bedroom house in Surrey with a nice big garden where my kids can play, move the family into a 3-bedroom flat next to the office or just round the corner from the office because I don't have time to commute." Now, this guy was passionate about cooking as well, by the way. He's like, "I never get to cook. I'm living off Just Eat. I'm piling weight on. My health's deteriorating. I don't get to see my kids because..." Exactly. He said, "I don't get to see my kids because I'm out of the door before they're up in the morning. And by the time I get back from the office in the evening, they're already in bed.
Wow.
I have to work Saturdays. So the only time I see them is a Sunday. And I'm so tired by that point that I can't enjoy them." And he said that, and the worst thing as well is like the biggest lie of it all is that you think you're going to get to the top of the company and be rolling in money. And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "But the trouble is like all this extra stuff, the extra rent, the extra laundry service, the extra someone to come and do your ironing, the extra childcare, the extra, just keep your life ticking over." He said to me, despite the pay rises, and they were big pay rises, despite the pay rises, I have less money now at the end of every month than I did before I was promoted.
And less time probably as well.
And yeah, a hell of a lot less time. And I was like,
wow. So for you, this was like a proper slap on your face saying, "Wow, thank you so much for sharing this story," because
exactly,
I in the most respectful way, I don't want to be like you anymore.
yeah,
in the most respectful way.
Exactly. And I started realizing I've got to do something different because that's, if I'm one of the lucky ones, then I get to be Matt in the next 30 to 40 years. That's if I'm the lucky one, right?
Yeah. That is crazy. So well done. So you kind of had, so that faith obviously brought you there. You had this one seed, which was opposite to the guy who was your the idol in many ways. And suddenly he opened up your eyes, opened up your mind in different way. And you were like, "Okay, I need to do something else.
I've got to do something different."
So how long did it take you until you left that job?
So that was that moment on the train was, I think it was the back end of 2015. And then I think in January 2016, that's when I went to my first ever property seminar. And it was, I still remember, it was an evening session in central London. I forget the name of the hotel, but I could take you there if you know what I mean. I know where it is, but I can't remember what it's called. I went to an evening session, didn't buy their training, so we're trying to pitch some training at the event, didn't buy the training in the end, but it kind of opened my eyes to the fact that property as an investment strategy is actually really, really powerful. And that's where I first heard about buy, refurb, refinance as a strategy, where you buy the property below the market value, add a load of value, and then revalue it and draw the equity back out. And that's where I first kind of heard of this concept. I was like, it kind of blew my mind. I was like, how is that possible? Like, you're telling me one deposit and some development funding, and I could do as many property deals as I want. And it's like, I couldn't.
Sounds good.
It sounded too good. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what? No, this has got to be bollocks. Like, they've got to be selling me something. And sure, they were selling me something, but
surely they were. But
now, a few years on, we know it's not bollocks. It's a genuine strategy. So
absolutely, now we know. But when you're in the beginning of the game, as you said, it just sounds too good to be true.
I was super skeptical about property as well. I was like, it can't be as easy as they make out. It can't be.
And then
it's a lot of work. Don't get me wrong. Property is one of these things. So you sometimes hear some people saying it's easy, and I disagree with that. I don't think property as a business is easy. I think it's simple, but there's a big difference between simplicity and ease. Okay?
Absolutely.
It's simple because you just follow the steps. It's not. There's nothing massively complicated there about it. But it's not easy because it requires hard work. It requires time. Now, doesn't mean you have to be a slave to the business. And as you grow it, the more you grow your business, the more you can step away from it, because you can afford to put new software in place, new people in place, new teams.
And Yeah.
But you've got to get through that period. There's a period at the start where there's a lot of work to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before you are able to step away or give certain roles to people or certain responsibilities to others. But as some people say as well, that in order for you to grow, you need to let go and outsource as Rob Moore always says now as well, like outsource as soon as possible, as fast as possible, as fast as possible, as much as possible, basically. Yeah, so definitely. So, but as you said, it's a lot of work up front as well, isn't it?
I had some advice early on in my journey that I didn't take, and now I wish I had taken. And it was along those lines. It was my mentor at the time advised me that you need to outsource before you need it.
Yeah,
outsource before you're too busy to outsource.
Yes.
Because that person needs training, that person needs finding, interviewing. You've got to set up the job advert, etc., etc. So, and that takes time in itself. So you need to get that resource before you need that resource. And it's a bit of a balancing act between affordability and timing. And you need to bring it in at the right time. And I wish I'd taken that advice. I was too kind of coming from a cost-cutting management consulting background. I was all about pinching the pennies and finding cost-effective ways of doing everything.
Exactly. And certain things you think, I do this myself. Oh, it's only half an hour a day, or it's only, and then it adds up. Especially as it grows, that half an hour turns into an hour, that hour turns into 3 times a week, and so on. Exactly. Yeah. I'm in the process of getting a VA now to help me with social media and certain bits as well with the podcast, etc. And it's one of those things as well that I wish I did ask sooner, because there's certain things work so well on social media, for example, but doing it yourself, it can easily become your full-time job. And if you want to have your own other full-time jobs or businesses or whatever that is, and your private life as well, social media it's an amazing thing, and it's free. Technically it's free in many platforms, or like a podcast and things like that. However, it takes time and a lot of work, like editing, thinking about the content and all that, and scheduling, and it does take time. And that's just one example.
And not just, and it doesn't even just stop with content though, does it? It's like you create the content, then you've got to go and share it, but you have to share it differently on different platforms. So I hear a lot of advice, and it's probably good advice to repurpose your content, like we've done right now. So we're kind of doing that right now. So this is your podcast episode. This is also a Facebook Live. We can also probably take this and put it on into our GTV or YouTube. In fact, you're going to put it on YouTube, aren't you? So we are repurposing. But then a lot of what I find is when I do a post, I'll go, brilliant, right, I'm going to put this onto Instagram. But then it doesn't translate onto Instagram because it's not pictorial enough. There's too much of the contents in the text rather than the picture.
Yes.
And you have much lower character limit on Instagram than you do on Facebook. And then I go, oh, well, I'll put it onto LinkedIn then. But then you've got even less characters on LinkedIn. It's like, right, now I've got to rehash this and completely change the wording of it just to make it fit the character. And it's like,
yes, so much, isn't it? Exactly. As you said, when you said that we are repurposing even this content, I just went to check because it was not showing that we are live on my Facebook. And I just went to check. And we are.
Okay. It says we are on the top of the screen, so fingers crossed.
We are live on your Facebook. I was just checking if we are on mine as well. Okay. But it's completely, as you said, and it's repurposing the content as well. And this is where having a VA, for example, if you have many other things to do, and when you're growing your business, having a VA, this is where they can help you. So you don't need to think about that. So you create your content for, let's say, 4 days a week. And then the other 2 days, for example, she can use the content you used before, or he, sorry, don't want to be sexist. He or she, doesn't matter. Just repurposing your old post and taking a post from there, change a little bit of that, the headlines, for example, and post it different places and different times. And it's just so important. You can use your own content.
But then that's only the start of the journey then, isn't it? Because then there's all the comment management and replying to people's comments and then following up on conversations that it initiates. And the content's kind of only the start phase.
Yeah, and that's why if you can have a VA who helps you with that, then you have more time to focus on engaging with people and replying. And so definitely.
And it's definitely one of our top tips that I was going to give later on was to try and get somebody as soon as possible to do that stuff for you. So I have a fully managed inbox. So like all my DMs from Facebook just get managed by Dan from our team, great guy. But he manages all that for me. Just helps keep things time efficient.
Well done. That's really good. Really, really good. So let's learn from you a bit more and tell us
Okay.
how you got to where you are, because it's so exciting. So you told us and explained, like, we understand now your mindset and how you got to property. So you were in a high paid job where you were willing, because as we both know, you are a hard worker. We wouldn't be where you are if you wouldn't be a hard worker. So I can tell that even in your previous job, you would work so hard, and you would probably be still chasing that other dream you thought you had, until now, if you wouldn't have that little eye-opener conversation with someone. So that's really that's amazing. So now you changed your mindset and you're like, right, I need to take over my future and I need to be in charge of my free time in the future, etc. So you went to this networking event and you started your property journey. And can you, so now obviously that's going to link to that question as well, but I'm going to open up now the main question for the episode, which everybody is excited for, is how. Chris, how? Honestly, this is so inspiring. How did you get 110 property deals in less than 5 years? Because that is very impressive.
Awesome. So it's a really big question. So,
yeah, and off you go. You got
how
time.
do I tell 5 years worth of story in 30 minutes? Okay. So I guess let's start with the first one, right? Because again, I train a lot of people, I mentor a lot of people, and the from that perspective, you see it time and time again. I see my own journey replayed out. The first deal is always the hardest deal you ever do. So I guess let's cover off the first deal first, because that's the one that takes the most getting.
Yeah.
Either raising the finance for it, or having the confidence to go and pitch rent to agents, or whatever your strategy. Most of the learning happens in that first deal, right? So, so the first deal is actually quite a funny story as well, actually. So I went to a Watford Pin event. I'm trying to think of timings of this. It will have been early 2016, maybe early summer 2016. So we're probably talking like June-ish time. So I'd already registered my business. My business was formed in February 2016 after I went to this networking. After I went to this first training event, and when April I did a load of training courses with various different companies, and then I actually went to start taking some action after that. So I went to this networking event.
So there's a first lesson for the listeners. Education is very important.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. There's so many people that will go and try and do it without getting educated, without getting the help of a mentor to make sure that they A, stay accountable, and B, stay safe. Because there's loads of people prepared to take the deal for doing the deal rather than doing the deal because it's a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
We had instance springs to mind. I'm not going to name anybody, but there's somebody on my mentorship program the other day where we sat down and we went through a deal and we just looked at the numbers, and they were about to sign for the deal. And I was like, well, hang on a minute, let's just look at the numbers before you go and sign for anything. And we went through the numbers, and I was like, well, this isn't a deal. Like, you're guaranteeing something like £3,000 a month in rent for the opportunity to make about £250 to £300 profit when it's fully occupied.
Ooh.
I was like, this is not a deal you want to be doing. That's the value of a mentor. That's the value of training, is that's going to make sure that you don't do stuff like that, because that would have been terrible. Like, that would have been their first experience of property, and they could have ended up losing a lot of money.
Yeah, well, people say no that if you think that education is expensive, try ignorance.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Really good phrase, actually. I like that. Can I steal that one?
Yeah, I didn't make it.
Great, right.
I just heard it a few times. I don't even know who actually said it.
Okay,
Let's Google it. We might find the person who made it.
definitely writing that one down. So, sorry, where I was going. Right. So yeah, back to this first deal. So I went to this networking event, and again, like, at the time, I was really uncomfortable talking in public. I wasn't a natural speaker. I wasn't I didn't like standing up in front of crowds. Now I kind of do it for a living. But at the time, standing in front of crowds was terrifying to me. But I took my then at the time mentor's advice, and he said, look, you've got to push yourself outside your comfort zone. If you feel uncomfy, you're growing. And I was like, right, fine. So, at pin events, you get the opportunity to stand up and pitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I stood up.
Or something, isn't it?
Not even that. It's like 20 seconds.
Okay.
Yeah. So you got to be.
Hi, I'm Chris.
Yeah, literally. Like, yeah, I'm Chris, and I'm done. Right, bye. But I didn't want to, but I stood up and pitched. I remembered his voice in my head, and I was like, right, I've got to do this. So I stood up and I pitched. And at the time, I was trying to do rent-to-rent deals, and I was trying to do deal packaging. I hadn't done any deals at this stage. I hadn't done anything. But that's what I wanted to carve out my property career in. So I was like, right, so my name's Chris. I'm based in North London. and I'm looking to do some rent-to-rent deals, and I deal source in Watford, because that's where I was trying to do some deal sourcing in Watford, and I was trying to do some rent-to-rent, but I wasn't really sure where.
Or how to do it.
Or how to do it, yeah, right. Well, I've done some training courses at this stage, just hadn't got any experience. But I went off stage and I was like, oh, that was such a rubbish pitch. I was like, that was awful. But to my surprise and delight, a guy, and I'm just thinking, I probably shouldn't say his name. I've not asked his permission, so I won't say his name. We'll call him
Pete. So we had a Matt, now let's have
we'll call him
no,
we'll call him Abdul. His name's not Abdul, but it's very similar to Abdul.
I see.
So we'll call him Abdul, and he came over to me and said, "You're the guy that does rent to rent, right?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do rent to rent, yeah." And
no, but you do. That's the thing.
Well, right, exactly, yeah.
You already made so much effort to be there, so you are on the way. So yeah, gotcha.
Exactly, yeah. I like the way you look at that. So you'll approve this next bit as well then. So he asked me, do you know anything about service departments? And I was like, yeah, I know about service departments, yeah. I'd never even heard of a service department at this stage. And he was like, oh, great. Well, look, maybe we can have a chat then, because, I've got a flat in North London. I'm looking at running it as a service department. So I've literally got a thunderstorm rolling past my window now. So the hail's turned into lightning.
Wow, I have a gorgeous sunshine.
Oh, lucky you. Don't brag. There's the benefit of being on the south coast, Lenka.
Yeah, we have our own microclimate. No matter what's happening in the UK, Torbe has its own mind. It's actually well known for having its own micro little climate. So
I'm actually going to be down in Torbe a little bit later this year for a wedding. So
I know we are meeting up for we're going for a drink together. I can't wait.
Exactly. Yeah, that'd be fun. So anyway, I met this guy. I went home from this networking event. I called my mentor. I was like, I don't know anything about service accommodation. I think I might have just signed up a service accommodation deal, or at least got some interest in one. Tell me everything there is to know. He's like, right, calm down. Go and see the property, take some photos, take a video. Like, let's take it from there. So the next morning, I was supposed to be jumping on a train down to the South Coast City Council that I was working for at the time. And I had to get there pretty early. So I was expected to be in the office for like 8:30, which when you're commuting from London means I have to leave at about 7-ish.
It should be illegal. That should be illegal to so early. No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. So at 6 o'clock, I met the guy at his flat because he also owned a pharmacy that was on the ground floor, and then he owned 3 flats above it. So there's ground floor 1, floor 2, floor 3, and he owned the whole building. And
we had a nice commercial and some residential above.
Yeah, exactly. A nice bit of mixed use.
Yeah.
So he had just, I'm trying to think, was it the top floor flat? No, it's a second floor flat, had just become available. So we went and had a look around it. Then we took some photos, took some videos. And then I went away, kind of jumped on the train down to the South Coast, went and did my day's work. And instead of staying in a hotel like I normally would, I stayed in a hotel that night, did all my research, put all my numbers together, researched the local service department market, found some ideas of what the profit could possibly be, set up a list of things that I wanted to have done to the property to kind of make it look really nice for the photos. And then the next day we met for dinner. So it's like, instead, normally I would stay in a hotel on the South Coast all week, but sometimes you just got to do what you got to do, right? So I took the train home to then take the train back to the South Coast afterwards. So we met in London for dinner in Queensbury. He took me to this little kind of really small, traditional, family-owned, family-run Indian restaurant. And we sat and had dinner together, and we talked through my proposal. And I looked through the numbers, discussed what I thought he should do to the property to make it kind of SA worthy. And he was like, okay, look, this all sounds really, really good. Can you kind of draft up an agreement for me? So I was like, yeah, sure. So again, I went that night, again, jumped on the train back down to Southampton, stayed there, did my day's work the next day, came back again, and we met in the pub. And over a pint of beer, sat in the pub in the summer, we read through this agreement, we made some final draft alterations, and then we signed the agreement the next day to JV together on that property for him to basically provide the property and refurb the property to the standard that I suggested. But then I would do everything. So like I would manage the refurb, he'd pay for the refurb, but I would manage the refurb, I'd find the refurb team, I would get it photographed. I'd get it set up as an essay. I'd do all the advertising. I'd manage all the guests. I'd basically just run it for him. And we agreed commercially, that everything up to basically what he could get for it on the open market as a single let, any money that we made from it, the first amount that was up to the value of the single let value was his.
Yeah.
Anything above that, any profits above that I generate, we split 70-30, 70 to him, 30 to me. So I was getting about 650 to 700 a month on average.
That's pretty much the average. It's like a management company, which average is like 20%, sort of. Yeah. So you had a bit more, because for a bit more work, obviously, put into it. That's brilliant.
Yeah. So that was my first ever deal. So it was a joint venture rather than a management deal.
From the little pitch, which you were so sad that you actually went, nope, that didn't go well. Actually did. So well done.
And then from there, he was so happy with the arrangement that we had on the first one. He owned 7 properties in London. So he gave me the second one, but the second deal was not a joint venture in the same way that first one was. It was just a straight rent to rent. So I paid him a premium rent for his flat, more than he was getting before. And then I rented it out as a 2-bedroom service apartment in Bayswater. It's about 5 minutes walk from Hyde Park.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, really great location. And that went so well. And then he recommended me to a friend of his, because who do other landlords know?
Landlords.
Other landlords, right? So he recommended me to a friend of his. I ended up doing a joint venture on his friend's apartment with his friend's son.
Wow.
So we went 50-50, rented his dad's apartment, and then each put 50% of the money in, but then I did all the work. So it was a bit of a bad JV for me, to be honest.
But it's getting you in the game. This is all those things that people are saying, especially in the beginning, add as much value as possible. Even if you're losing a little bit there, it's getting you in the game. So for the beginners out there, sometimes, even if it doesn't look like the best deal you will take in the future, right now, when you are in the beginning, there's certain times you need to kind of like bite your tongue and go like, right, I go for this because I can see the bigger picture.
Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what we did with that first deal. If it was today, I wouldn't agree a 70-30% split on the profits. I would have agreed a 50-50 maybe. But
my deal is like that. It's not like yours. It's very similar, where I'm like, lots of people go like, I would never do this. And I was like, well, yeah, but that's opening the door to so many others.
Exactly. Had I not done that, I wouldn't have got Bayswater. I wouldn't have got Harrow. I wouldn't have got London Bridge. All the ones that kind of resulted from that first deal, from either his other properties or his friend's properties that he referred me onto. I would never have done any of those deals had I not accepted a slightly worse off deal for the first one.
Amazing. Well done. Thanks. So that was deal number...
Which one, sorry?
The one you did with your landlord's friend's son.
So Haringey was the first one. That was on Green Lanes in Haringey. Then the second one was Bayswater. So that was just off Bayswater High Street. And then the third one was Harrow, just around the corner from Middlesex. Sorry, not Middlesex. What's it called? Northwick Park Hospital.
Right.
And then we did London Bridge. And then we did... So that was... Oh, I forget the name. What's the street called there? I forget the street name on that one. Then we did Argyle Street in King's Cross. It kind of blew up from referrals for me to start with. I didn't do any marketing. I didn't have a marketing budget for the first kind of couple of years of my business. It was just referrals. So people were like, oh, this guy's renting my flat. He's doing a great job. I would get normally. I've just joint ventured with this guy. I'm making loads of money. Like, you should do it too. And that's the great thing. When you get in the right network, you surround yourself with the right people.
Yes.
People know people like themselves, right? What's the saying? You are the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Yeah.
So people like to spend time with people like them.
Saying that if you're the most smartest person in a room, you'll never learn anything.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
So you should keep. Yeah. That's
So that's how I started. Really, it was just just through word of mouth referrals and just asking, asking for the referral as well. I think a lot of people fail to ask for it. We have this conversation structure that we teach as part of our training, and it's called Ice Babies. Now the S of the Ice Babies, the S is something or someone else.
Yeah.
So it's like encouraging and prompting people to make sure that you're asking, well, like, who else do you know? What else do you have? How else can I help? So like you were asking if I can point out some top tips as we go through this interview, that's going to be one of my top tips is, never be afraid to ask. Never be afraid to ask for more. Never be afraid to ask for a favor. If you've provided nothing but value and service, feel free to ask for something in return.
Absolutely. I love that. And it's so true. And as you said, it's just by simply saying like one sentence to someone's like, oh, if you're happy with what I'm doing, do you know anybody else?
Exactly.
Can you get me in touch with someone?
Yeah.
And it's so true, isn't it? It's like I always say it that way as well. Like if you don't ask, you don't get. So with anything, it's like what it doesn't harm anybody if you give a question. You always can just gain. You can't lose anything, really.
Exactly.
So yeah.
There's another time when that really, really worked for us. It was actually this is actually Toby's story. So Toby and I joint ventured on his first ever deal, and that was an HMO in Bedford. And he was basically, we thought the deal was done, and then on the day that I was literally in the agent's office to sign this rent-to-rent deal. And while I was there, I found a clause in the contract that said you can't sublet. So I asked for this clause to be removed, and then basically the landlord had a massive tantrum and didn't like the fact that we were changing contracts on signature day. And the whole deal just collapsed before our eyes. And then like a couple of weeks went by, and the house was still on the market, and we managed to find some little back route to the owner of this house. So it turned out like Toby's mum's sisters, brothers knew the cousin's dog's auntie or something like that of the owner. So some weird little back route. We managed to get the owner's phone number, and we met them in the pub, and we managed to salvage this deal and get that deal back on track just by kind of going around the agent, because the agent wouldn't let us talk to the landlord through them.
Oh, yeah.
So we had to find our own way to talk to this landlord and straighten it all out. And we did put the deal through the agent. Once we got it back on track, we said to the agent, right, this is back on, so you can collect your commission now, because we wanted to work with them further. But
absolutely, that's the thing. Don't cut them out. If you don't.
Well, yeah, yes and no. So I'm going to come on to that.
On certain occasions.
Sometimes I think they need cutting out, but most of the time, no.
Yeah. I mean, like on the certain occasions when it feels right, it's like, don't try to sneak out and cut them out, exactly, because they can bring you more deals, or, you can have a good working relationships with them. So yeah.
Yeah. Unless there's no opportunity to work together because they either have a policy that they don't do rent to rent, or they screw you over in some way. That's the only thing that I would cut out an agent.
In that case, goodbye.
But sorry, there's something or someone else. So we ended up doing this first deal with them. And just as we were leaving the pub, having kind of agreed the project going forwards, we asked them, well, look, actually, just before we go, guys, like, is there anything else we can help you with? Do you have any other properties, or do you know anyone who might benefit from this sort of service? And it turned out that they didn't just own that house, but they owned the house that was here and the house that was here. So now we have 3 houses in a row, all from that one conversation, 37, 39, and 35, all on the same street in Bedford.
Wow.
Just by asking that.
Can we read what it actually says for those listeners behind you about
Toby or Rabbit?
We're going to read both, but you just told us story about Toby. So let's do that. So within just 3 years of working with Chris, I'm making $312,000 per year, and I have 25 houses, and started while working with a 70-hour per week job. That's very impressive. Well done to Toby, and well done to you, Chris. That's very amazing.
This is actually out of date. Toby's got 28 houses now, and I think you pitched this as, let's say it's 110 deals. So I'm going to come clean. My 110th deal comes next week when Toby and I sign the contract on house number 29 for Toby, 110 for me.
So this is actually my fault, guys. He wanted to be very honest, and he said 109 deals. You actually are just about to exchange 110th. So let's just put that one there. So it's a round number.
By the time you're watching this on the recording, it probably will be 110. That's fair enough.
Exactly. And you are working on it. It's not that it's a potentially I'm planning to. No, you are already working on it. So definitely. What was the other one? So that's
Rabbi. Again, this is a bit out of date now. So Rabbi's actually got 4 deals right now. But Rabbi's a full-time private surgeon in London. There is nobody who is busier than Rabbi. So whenever anyone says, I'd love to get into property, but I'm just too busy, you're not busier than Rabbi. With the greatest respect, you're not busier than Rabbi. He's a private surgeon during a national pandemic.
Wow.
And still has managed to do 4 property deals over the last 12 months. He's now making an extra 3,600 a month. So it's not quite the 4,000 that he was aiming for, but 3,600 from 4 deals in London, still very, very solid.
And that's working with you?
Sorry?
That is since he started working with you?
Correct, yes. Yeah. So Rabbi's on our mentorship program.
Oh, well, I'm very proud of you. That's really good. Well done. Well done. Very, very impressive. So let's find out more. So you started with rent to rents and essays basically.
Yeah.
So how did you get to HMOs, or in which stage you were, or how? Yeah, tell us a bit more about how you were growing it then.
This is actually a key part of how we managed to do so many deals as well, is by the concept of focusing. So, it's one of those things that gets thrown around, and I actually love it. It's a bit cliche, but I love it. Focus stands for follow one course until successful. And it's just so true. Like anyone who wants to scale something very fast, if you want to grow a business fast, you need to niche. Okay, so if you want to do a lot of deals in a short space of time, you need to be operating in a specific niche. So I'm going to be releasing a bonus for one of our training attendees later this month, called How I Did 10 Deals in 1 month. And that's the most I've ever done. And we have 10 deals that was done in 1 month, and that's our fastest rate of growth that we've ever had. And the way you do that is not by being scattergun. Okay, you've got to focus on one thing. So that's how I grew my business really, really fast. I focused on was service departments in London to start with. That's all I did.
Amazing. Yeah, you need to focus on one. When you're trying to catch 2 rabbits, you're not going to catch any.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a really good way of putting it. So I think for the first 18 months of my property journey, I didn't do anything but service departments in London. And then I kind of realized, well, do you know what? I'm quite exposed right now. So I'd already quit my job. I quit my job after, So September 2016. So it was July, August, September. So 2 months after doing my first deal, I quit my job because I wanted to put more time into my property business.
You knew you're going to make it. You knew you can make it. You could see the potential, and you're like, right, I need that time I'm giving to that full-time job to give to my own business now.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm glad you did.
Yeah, well, me too. It was a bit of a back against the wall scenario because I hadn't replaced my salary by any stretch. And when I quit my job, the money I was making from property, it wasn't a replacement for my salary, but B, it didn't actually cover all my living expenses either. So I knew that unless I did more deals, I had enough money to last me until Christmas that year. Otherwise, I'd be going back to work the following year.
You needed to make it work.
So you had to make it work. And this backs against the ropes mentality is just so powerful. There is no alternative. You've got to make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in a very similar position. I've done a similar thing. I lost my income when the pandemic started. And then when I actually got into property properly, I left the job I had simply because I knew that I saw how much potential there is in scaling, and the time I was, the time I was giving to the job and time I was giving now to property, and I saw that balance, and it's like, no, this is what I want to do. Exchanging my time for something like that. So so you suddenly had no income. You were like, right, I'm going full-time property. So you've been focusing on service apartments in London to start with, and rent to rent. Now so how did that grew into a different strategy in the end, and then different towns?
Great question. So I realized at one stage that I think it was about 18 months in, I realized, I'm very exposed to one market and one city. Okay, because everything is now dependent on service departments in London. And, at the time, the 90-day rule was getting discussed more and more and more, and things were starting to hot up around that. And there was talk of licensing, and there was talk of a citywide ban on service departments and all that kind of stuff. And I suddenly thought, well, holy shit, if that happened, if there was just all of a sudden a blanket ban on Airbnb, for example, in London,
you're done.
I'm done. I'm done. So I need to have some diversity in this portfolio. I need to either branch out and do serviced accommodation somewhere else with a partner, or I need to look at a different strategy. And at the time, I just started working with Toby on the training side of things, and his strategy was going to be HMOs. So he started focusing on HMOs there in Bedford, and we did our first deal there together.
Was it rent to rent?
It was a rent to rent. Yeah, that's the one where that was the one where I was there in the office and it all fell apart.
Oh yes.
And then we've just grown that business up from there. So now it's we continue to do rent to rent deals in Bedford, and that's the sole part of the business. And we've recently, we've recently launched service apartments into Bedford as well, predominantly focusing on contractors off the back of this Trade Stays brand that I own and run.
That's fantastic. So amazing. And are you basically all your properties are rent to rent? Or is that all your deals on a rent to rent basis?
No, no. So it's a mix. So there's a combination of some have bought, a lot of rent to rent. There's quite a few JVs in there. So it's always a mix of acquisition strategies. And you know what? I would never want to follow just one acquisition method, because then it kind of narrows the number of opportunities that you can go after. Because if you see the perfect property and it's like the perfect property for for a service department, but it's for sale, not for rent. Well, if you eliminate a purchase strategy rather than a rental strategy, then obviously you can't do anything with that. Whereas if you have a variety of acquisition methods available, then, you know, whether it comes up for rent, comes up for auction, comes up for sale, you know, whatever acquisition strategy you want to use, if you know that's the perfect property for the application, i.e. service department or HMO, then you have more options available. You can do more deals because you're not focusing just on buying, or focusing just on renting, or focusing just on managing other people's properties or joint ventures. And so having a bit of a wider view allows you to do a lot more deals as well.
Absolutely, that's really, really good advice. And if you ever had to get a mortgage, for example, for the property for yourself, did you do it like on a personal name or under the company? Because this is very important one, because you got loads of people who are not mortgageable, or they will quit the job like you did, for example, to go full-time property, for example. But that way you are less likely to be mortgageable. So what do you do? Do you just look for SPVs, or is it under the company, or what do you do?
Yeah, so we now buy everything we buy is through the company. We don't buy, honestly, we don't buy that much, because buying a property, I mean, it is a good investment because you've bought an asset and it's going to go up over value over time. But the return on your investment is never that great. Whereas if you do a rent to rent deal, your return on your money is just so much more phenomenal. Like, we're talking hundreds of %. Whereas you can only really ever aspire to that. You know, you're hoping for 10 to 12% with a single let. You know, you're hoping for 20 to 30% with an HMO. You can never expect hundreds of % return on investment. So in terms of allocation of funds, a lot of what I do and a lot of what I kind of continue to do is still rent to rent, even though, you know, we have the purchasing power to buy stuff. The money goes so much further if you do rent to rent stuff.
Right, yeah, that's very true. I mean, you got loads of people. Everybody has different desires for their future in the property. Some people, for some people, rent to rent is only to start with, and then eventually they want to hold the assets. But as you said, it's like everybody has different goals and different structure, and that's why it's so important to, especially for those who are starting out, listen to different stories, because you listen to one and you think, oh, that's the way how it is, that's how I should do it, and then it's hold on a second, and there's other ways, and everybody has different desires, different future dreams, etc., and not, you know, and every deal works like different for different people as well. So yeah, I love the way how you're looking at it as well. As you said that, for us, rent to rent, it works really, really well, and we're happy to grow it that way. So that's fantastic.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we do still buy stuff as well. So from the profits that we generate, we reinvest it into our property business. You know, that's not, I don't live a lavish lifestyle, but because I want to grow my business as rapidly as possible. We want to grow our asset base. So although we take a healthy salary and bonuses and dividends, we like to plow a lot of that back in. So if we buy stuff, it's commercial finance.
Especially now with all these rules are easing up when it comes to commercial to resi, you know.
Oh yeah, good point. Yeah, I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? The whole whether you want to get into developments this year, because there's a lot of opportunity around for empty retail space.
Absolutely.
You know, we could talk about that as a whole separate chat.
Maybe next episode.
I was going to say, let's put that in for next week. But again, like, I think one of my top tips would be, you did ask for some top tips as we go through this. So it would be like, if you're watching this and you are new in property, and you know one of your objectives is to get out of your job, then you need to be looking at the cash flow strategies rather than the asset generation strategies. Okay, you can't discount joint ventures and rent to rent, because that's how you generate money that's going to get you out of your job sooner.
Nice.
Okay, if every rent to rent deal you make, let's say you make an average of £800 to £1,000 per rent to rent deal, okay, depending on the area and the type of property, etc. So let's call it 800. So if you're making £800 profit per property per month, well, you know, like 5 properties, and most people in the UK can live very, very comfortably, because that's 4K a month.
Mm-hmm.
Like most people could live very comfortably on 4K a month.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
And certainly walk away from jobs and live a comfortable lifestyle.
And
Now,
still spend money.
Exactly. Now, I see a lot of people, and you know, people have got their own investment criteria, so it's fine, I guess, and like I totally understand. But I see a lot of people who are going, my primary focus is I want to get on my job, so I'm going down the route of buy-to-let because I need to create a passive income. And it's like, okay, well, there's much quicker ways of doing it. If you go down the route of buy-to-let and you're making like £500 profit per month, but you've had to invest 100 grand to get to that point,
Mm-hmm.
the return on your money, you're going to be waiting 10, 20 years before you can quit your job.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you're earning, you know, 100, 200, 300% on your money by doing rent to rent, you only have to put 5K to get the deal, and it's going to make you £800 a month. You can get out of your job so much quicker.
Absolutely.
And then focus on the asset creation strategies, the actual buying of houses.
Yes. Yeah, because as you said, the return are crazy when you do get a good deal. The returns are absolutely crazy. This is similar with mine now. Like I invested money to make my essay up and running to get ready for summer because I'm in Torbay, which is one of the most high demanded.
We're going to milk it this summer.
Oh yeah. It's like I've been receiving, obviously there's my rent I need to pay, and there's, you know, obviously got your expenses and the cleaning and etc. However, it's not going to take me long to get my money back. And I invested few thousands because I paid for the whole refurbs, etc. And I was thinking like, oh, if I get my money back in the first year, that'll be amazing. No, it looks like I'm going to get it back in the summer. Hopefully, fingers crossed, touch the wood.
Anyone with property on the south coast this summer is going to make an absolute killing.
Oh yes, absolutely, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Staycation is going to play right into your hands.
But then
I said the old staycation is going to play right into your hands.
And that's why I was in such a hurry. Like I've been networking, I've been searching for those deals so much. Like it's not luck and it's not coincidence. It's a hard work and dedication, isn't it? As you know, and it's a lot of networking and making sure that you know what you're talking about, even if you don't have that experience in it. You need to understand it at least. And so it is a hard work. So it's not a coincidence, isn't it?
You've got to spend a lot of time on the phone, a lot of time speaking to people, lots of viewings.
Online. Oh yeah. Lots of them. Definitely. But it's worth it.
Exactly. Absolutely.
That's fantastic. So now that's really impressive. So now you have, as you have explained, you have, you have 110 deals almost. And you have business partners, you got JV partners, most of them are rent to rents, and you're doing 2 different strategies now, which is obviously SA and the HMO. For beginners, we probably should say that in the beginning, SA means service apartment, service accommodation. HMO means house of multiple occupancy. And we also use the abbreviation JV. So for those who don't know, JV means JV partner. And that just means partnering up with someone. It's joint venture partner. Sorry, that's what I tried to say. So that's fantastic. So I think, this is leading me to the questions which I had from others. So this time I have ask public as well for questions for my guests, and I had fairly few really nice amount of questions coming to you as well. However, some of them were very, very same. Some of them were exactly like the first one I'm going to read. So I just I just picked a few. So basically, there's a question from a guy called Ray O'Connor. And he was asking, what is your model? And are these BRR or are some of them rent to rents? So you answered that question. You already answered.
Pretty much answered that one, yeah.
Yeah, you pretty much answered this one. But if there's anything,
it's a mix, Ray. It's a mix. So some rent to rent, some joint ventures, a couple of refurb refinances, a couple of cash purchases. It's a mix of strategies, and we work with our own personal funds. So we reinvest our profits into doing the next deal. And we also work with a lot of external investors as well to make sure that there's always funds available to do a lot of deals.
Fantastic. Because his second question was, how do you scale so quickly and finance such a growth? So thank you very much for explaining already.
Okay, so maybe I should just go into it a little bit more then. So, sorry, just say the question again, Lenka.
So Ray is asking, how do you scale so quickly and finance such a growth?
Cool. So the finance is fairly straightforward. You need to work with people. You're not going to pay for 110 deals yourself.
Or at least not in 5 years.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So we work with a lot of investors. Now, how, I guess it kind of leads on to the next logical question: how do you raise so much money for finance, right? So, firstly, is network like crazy, and B, network with intention. Okay, there's a very big difference between going looking for it and going to have a chat. Okay, so if you network with a goal in mind,
that's a great advice.
Yeah, you've got to have a goal in mind. You've got to put yourself in the environment where people with money hang out.
Yeah, and you know what you're looking for. So when they ask you a question, who are you? What are you doing here? You're not just going to say, oh, I'm just networking. No, you have specific things. I'm looking for insurance. I'm looking for landlords. I'm looking for this. I'm looking for that. Know what you're aiming for.
Exactly. So one of the things we train our students to do is when you go networking, firstly, have a goal in mind. What are you going there for? Are you there to try and meet a landlord who you could do a rent-to-rent deal with? Are you there to maybe try and increase the number of contacts you have in the trades? Are you there to meet investors? Now, if you're there to meet investors and raise finance, you've got to be there to meet investors with finance and kind of create the who are you and what do you do script around that. Because, when you go to networking, you get asked, oh, so what do you do? A lot. So your what do you do needs to reflect the fact that you want to work with investors. So we'll talk about the fact that, if someone says, oh, what do you do to me? And I'm there to meet investors. I'll be talking about the fact that we work with a lot of investors to invest into property projects that provide safe bank beating rates of return on their investment. We've got a 100% repayment record, and we are always looking to expand our network of investors. What is it that you do?
Amazing. Wow. So let me write that down.
It's recorded. Don't worry. So it's
fantastic.
So you're effectively pitching without pitching, because I'm pitching the investor because I'm talking about all the benefits of working with me, but I'm just answering the question, what do you do? And I don't.
Yeah, you're just basically explaining what you do at the same time. So that's brilliant.
But in a way that's going to appeal to the audience that you're trying to attract.
Yeah, just like you did your first one, as you said that you were not really doing anything yet in property, but you knew now what you want to do, and you basically stood up, and even that was your first one, and you still said, I am sourcing in XYZ, and then they came to do service apartments. Yes, no, but yes, just say you will find a way. You will find a way. And sometimes even for some people, like let's say if someone come to you and they ask you, do you do this? For example, and you really don't, and it's something you really don't want to do, you can always be that middleman. You're going to be like, you know what, but I know someone, or I can find you someone. And that happens to me a lot, including today. I had an email from a person I don't know, as it happens. They found me somewhere, and an email explaining what they're sourcing for. They're sourcing in Devon, and they're sourcing in this and this and this, and this is what they're looking for. Can I help? And the places in Devon where places I don't source, and I said to them, I was like, unfortunately, I don't source in this property, in those areas. I would love to help. However, I personally I can't. However, I might have people who who could help. And I contacted a couple of people who I know from those areas, send that email, say, can you help that person? And just be a middle person. And you just never know, even just by helping others, that's already, you're in the game. You show that you're willing, you can find, you're a problem solver as well. So anything can really help you, even if you don't do what they ask you for, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I mean, the more people you know, the more opportunities you have.
Absolutely. So that's brilliant. Okay, so what is the next question? From Lisa Johnson. There's a question. If you're using investors, which we probably already know, but again, for her, so if you're using investors, how do you look for them? Okay. Network like crazy.
Yeah, so, sorry, was it Lisa?
Lisa, yeah.
Lisa. Okay, great question, Lisa. So there's loads of different ways you can find investors. Again, like we don't a whole exercise into finding investors as part of our training, but to give you like a few kind of top tips on it, I'd say firstly, look at your personal network. Okay, who do you know who has money? Who do you know who's invested in property already? And it can be like from the strangest sources of places. I had an old school friend of mine reach out to me the other day and just say, look, Chris, I've got 10K. I'm looking for something to invest in. Are you still interested in investors? So the source could be as unlikely as you expect. I would never have expected that person to reach out to me and say, I'm interested in investing in your business. Now, how did he know that he could invest in my business? Because I shout about it, because I put posts on Facebook, because I let people know that I work with investors, because my messaging is consistent. So, if you see the same thing 20 times on Facebook, you start to remember it, right? So,
Yeah, absolutely.
I would encourage you, if you want to work with investors, be present on social media, talk about your journey, talk about what you're up to, because you need to kind of almost brand yourself. You need a bit of a personal brand in property. Especially the more you can post about deals that you've done, safe returns that you provided to people. You can just build credibility. You're going to build kind of track record for yourself. And then, someone at the start of your journey, when you say, well, Lenka, can I borrow 10 grand from you to do this project? And you go, well, Chris, I've just met you. No. If Lenka then sees my next 20 deals that I do, and me working with investors and providing safe returns and delivering a project that provides great accommodation, well, then if Lenka's still got 10 grand sitting around 20 deals later, and I go, Lenka, can I borrow 20 grand? It's a bit of a different conversation than it was the first time.
Absolutely. Love that.
So yeah, consistent messaging, work your existing network, because people will have money that you don't know about. So, even people that you think are broke sometimes come out of and just like, look, I've got 3 grand. Great.
Yeah, people also inherit money. Sometimes you genuinely have people that just like, right, I just inherited 20 grand. What can I do? Can I invest with you? And what I've learned as well over time is when I started the property journey, everybody told me be consistent on social media, and if you're not receiving any, if you're not finding investors straight away, for example, just keep going, because they will start coming out maybe after a year or something like that. What happened? That's exactly what happened. Yeah. I started receiving, I make a post the other day about, I took a screenshot of my 1 week booking for August, which was really high number. I'm talking almost 2 grand for 1 week. And that's 1 bed flat. And I was saying, basically, I sourced another property, which was 4-bed detached house. And it was on market. It wasn't even off market, but because the property market is so crazy in here, I started working heavily with agents now as well. And I literally just said, anybody wants to buy a house, this is, look what I've achieved with 1 bed flat. Imagine what can be achieved with 4-bed detached property with hot tub, blah, 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 pet friendly, and all that. And even though the post itself maybe just got like 30 likes or something, the amount of private messages I got, people want to work with me, people want to know more, people start telling me what they're looking for, how much budget they have. That's what it is. People start coming out, but they wouldn't do this. Exactly what you said. They wouldn't do this. If a year ago, I'll just be like, anybody wants to buy a house?
Yeah.
Who are you? Who are you and why you want my money?
Exactly.
So yeah, it's so important. So yeah, love that advice. Just be out there, keep showing what you, and even for those, again, it's easy to say for us now when you already have something to show. But what beginners they don't know what to share, which I completely sympathize with, is what do you share if you have no deals? How do you show investors that what you can achieve if you don't have no deals? Yeah. As well as if I can just add to your answer for Lisa as well, is that just even if it's just your ideas what you could do, or your research about the areas, or even if it's just a motivational quote or something, but just show people that you're interested in this topic and you're consistent and you're learning and you're willing to work and your work ethics and things like that, because that is, you have.
I'd also add to that, I'd say any training you've done, any mentorships you've signed up with, because again, it's just all adding credibility to yourself. It's like, look, I'm serious about this. I paid for my education in this field. I'm not just winging it. I'm learning it, and I'm learning it from either a training course, or I'm learning it from a mentor. Talk about your mentor's results, talk about other people on the mentorship program's results, help promote them. Again, you're just adding credibility to yourself. All of this is just talking about property, is adding a property brand to yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's essential. Exactly like that.
And Costa and the mic. Absolutely. Very, very well said. Okay, next question. I've got a last question for you from Pat Smith, and the question is, what would you recommend to a beginner in regards to how to start in rent to rent? Cool. Again, we kind of touched it already, and multiple, so if Pat is listening, or if she was listening the whole time, or if she will, or when she will, there's loads of tips about how to start in rent to rents there, but just like, if you could just put it in like 1 or 2 sentences, what would you say to her?
Yeah, I guess it's quite a broad question.
Yeah. So shall we the answer maybe could be listen to the whole episode.
Yeah, maybe. No, I don't want to shirk a question. So So how to get started in rent to rent?
What would you recommend to a beginner, genuinely, how you start?
Okay, I would say make sure that you are sourcing money to do the deals at the same time as trying to find the deals, because there's nothing worse than finding the deal of the century and then having to scramble to try and find the money because you come off as desperate and needy, and it's much harder to attract finance fee deals. So I would encourage you to think of it like a seesaw. Think of it like a seesaw, okay? If you just do deals, you go like that. If you just raise money, you're over that way. So you want to try and find deals and try and find money at the same time, so you stay a bit balanced.
I'm going to take this one. I'm taking this one.
All right, you can have that one. I know I've written down your phrase for me.
I'll be like, as Chris Peel says, it's like a seesaw. That's my thing now.
You've got to do that when you do it as well. You've got to do this.
Oh, yeah, always. I like calculations and all that with hands.
Good.
Amazing.
So I'd say that's probably one top tip. Other top tips when starting rent to rent, focus on the numbers, take emotion out of it. Okay, it's a calculation, and that's all it is. If you're looking at a property and you can see that you can get a 5-bedroom HMO, you could turn it into a 5-bedroom HMO, and you see that in the area all the rooms are renting for no more than £450. Well, then factor that into your forecast. Don't suddenly go, oh well, maybe I can market it a little bit better and get £475 or £500. Just make it cold. It's a cold calculation, and that's probably one of the hardest things to get right. When you're starting a business, everything's emotional, right? Because you're excited, you want to do that deal, you want to get that deal, you're scared at the same time, you're a bit nervous, you want to, so
especially when you get your first yes.
Exactly.
It's like, as you said, not to get the first one is so difficult sometimes, and then you get your first yes, and it's so easy to say yes back to something which is not a good deal, as you said. So take the emotions away because it's your first deal.
And I've fallen foul of that. I've done deals before where I've gone, well, like, looking at the numbers, it doesn't really work, but maybe if I could just get an extra 10% on the rents, then actually, and maybe if I can get my energy bills a little bit lower, and or maybe the council tax won't be quite as much as that, and I start manipulating the numbers to try and make the deal work. And I've done it before. I've done a deal and I've had to hand it back because I've gone like this. Oh, surprise, surprise, it didn't work.
Yeah.
The numbers are the numbers.
Sorry.
I've kind of done.
No, I just wanted to add to it, like same like with service accommodation. So when I was doing my predictions, and then you're speaking to the landlord to show him basically what we're looking at, is you're running on like 75%, and his reaction was, yeah, but we're going to be fully busy all the time. And I was like, yes, but you have to be ready for the worst case scenario, because once you achieve this, everything else is the amazing bonus. Yeah. But you much rather have this security of, right, this is the numbers we're looking at. Are you happy? Yes, I'm happy. You happy? Perfect. Now everything else above, it's like, yes, instead of going like, oh, we didn't quite reach that goal that month. But now if you run it on 75%, let's say my May was 98% busy. So I had was only 2 days were not busy, and one of them I chosen myself, not to be basically because I needed to do something in the property, and the second one was I booked it for my friend who helped me with his electrician. He helped me with electrics on my refurb. He's coming in the area with his girlfriend, and I was like, there you go, have it. So it's basically even my choice. So it was 98%, but I ran it on 75. So everything extra is just a bonus, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so yeah, very important to do your numbers right, and don't go rather lower, and then everything else above, it's just nice bonus.
Yeah, I agree. It's better to lose some average deals than do some bad deals.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely, love it. So, Chris, you were what's the word I'm looking for? Dropping top tips along the way, as it's amazing. I absolutely love it, because that's your golden nuggets. But what would you say now as your top 3 tips from Chris to all the listeners? What would be your top 3?
All right, top 3 tips. Number 1 is, we've already said it, but it just needs reiterating, is you've got to get educated. Okay, so if you want to enter this industry, get training, get a mentor. You need someone who's going to be there, because when you get the call at 6 o'clock on a Friday night and you look out the window and it's December and it's dark and it's wet and the rain's coming in horizontally, and someone says, I've got the deal of a century, you need to come and have a look at this property, who is going to be really easy to lie to yourself and to let yourself off the hook. Mm-hmm. That's when having a coach or a mentor is invaluable, Okay,
Yeah.
you need someone who's going to be there to say, well, what do you mean you let yourself off the hook?
Yeah.
Remember what we're doing this for. Remember what the goal is here. You know, this is the plan. This is what you've got to go and do. And it just kind of, that accountability is essential.
Amazing.
So the first top tip is definitely get trained and definitely get yourself a mentor. The second top tip, I should have thought of these in advance.
No.
What would I have told myself early on? Emotion out. Again, it's got to be emotion out. Or maybe, a better top tip is to prepare for the emotion. Because it's not like you can't, we're emotional beings, aren't we? We're humans, we are emotional. So as much as we want to keep it out of the decision-making process, emotion doesn't really feature in an investment decision. It's easier said than done, right? So I think if I was starting again, I would want to know just how much of a roller coaster ride it can be. There are great days. There are days when you do 10 deals in a month. That was a great month. It was a busy month. Don't get me wrong. It was a busy month, but it was a great month. Then there are deals where everything feels like it's going wrong. And, you might lose bookings, you might lose deals, you might have things fall over at the last minute. All of a sudden, your investor pulls out. These things are going to happen. And I guess, looking back on it, I wish I'd known that a little bit more. I don't think I would have changed anything because of it. It would just be nice to be prepared for that.
Absolutely. I love it. Yeah, just be ready with the emotion. Be ready for roller coaster. You're going to go up and down. Get yourself toughen up before you get into the game, because it's going to be tough in sometimes. Love it.
And I think probably third tip is always to think bigger. There's always a bigger game you can play. There's always more you can stretch yourself. One thing I'm a really, really big believer in is continuing education and continued personal development.
I call it forever student.
Exactly. Yeah, that's great. That's a great term.
You're stealing that one as well, yeah?
I'm stealing that one as well, correct? Yes. So, I will never be a finished product. I don't believe anyone is ever a finished product. There's always more you can know. There's always more you can learn. But I think committing to continual development and continual learning is one of the best things you can do. Learning not just about property, but learn about sales, learn about marketing, learn about people management, learn about building a team. I learn very widely. I don't just listen to property podcasts. I mean, I do listen to property podcasts, but I also listen to sales podcasts.
Show? No, you must be a big fan, of course. Of course.
Massive fan. Yeah, I'm your biggest fan. But, think of what the other skills are and develop yourself in other ways. It's not just, knowing everything about property is not all it takes. You need to be able to sell, you need to be able to market, you need to be able to manage people, especially if you want to grow a business. If you want to grow something big, if you want to do 110 deals, you can't do that by yourself. You need to be able to work with other people.
And be ready to maybe lose 10% on there because you're giving to someone else, but that leads you to a different one and another one. Yeah, like
100%.
Love it. Well done. I love your tips.
Awesome.
Now, Chris, I'm going to ask another questions, which is because we are almost in the end, and obviously time is ticking now as well because we got things to do in this afternoon. Yes. So I'm going to ask you the question I always ask every single guest. When it comes to education, what book would you recommend to read or listen to, or books if you want to recommend more?
Yeah, one of my favorite kind of mindset coaching books is called Mindset of the Millionaire. No, sorry. Oh God, I should have prepared this in advance. It's by T. Harv Eker.
Oh yeah.
Or The Millionaire Mindset, I think.
Yeah, it's The Millionaire's Mindset. Yeah, T. Harv Eker.
Okay, great. That one was one of my all-time favorites. I've listened to it like 3 times. Can I give a second one as well? Because I think it works really well.
I love recommendations because I got loads of what do you call it? Credits on my Audible. So please hit me.
No, my pleasure. So the second one, and again, I've listened to this book 3 times now. It's called Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. And as it's not the most advanced kind of sales book, but it's brilliant for anyone who doesn't have a background in sales.
Right. Nice.
And it's really great at foundational principles of selling, which if you want to go into property, you might not think of yourself as a salesman, but every time you pitch an investor, you're selling. Every time you show a room, you're selling. Every time you market to an SA guest, you're selling. So sales is a really, really, really great skill to develop as part of your property journey. So I would say that would be another great book recommendation.
Yeah, I love that, because it's like loads of people, they don't, as you said, they say, oh, I hate sales, I'm not good at sales, or I don't like it, I don't want to be a salesman. But technically that's what
You're
it
a
is. You are
salesman.
a salesperson. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like Grant Cardone, loads of people, you got people that hate him or love him. So love him or hate him, he knows what he's talking about. So there's
Oh,
so
yeah.
many things you can learn from that guy. Love him or hate him, definitely I will give it a go, because I listened to his 10x rules
Mhm.
book. Haven't listened to this one yet, so thank you very much for the recommendation.
Well, I haven't listened to 10x. I hear that's quite recommended by a lot of people as well. So that's on my reading list.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's the one I've listened to. And there's certain things you can, you apply to as well in life, and that doesn't always works. Everything times 10. But that's the theory behind it. It's just being having a bigger like mindset, basically, and just being open to. What did you say as the last one? Yes, just be ready to grow. You know what I'm trying to say. I lost my word now. I lost my word. But I think we know what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
And now, Chris, also the other question I always ask. This can be educational and doesn't have to be educational. If someone asks you, like, Chris, what would you recommend me to watch? What would you recommend?
So I love the old like entrepreneur films. So I was actually watching 8 Mile yesterday. It's not going to be my recommendation, but I just love the story of that. It's like an entrepreneurial story from like the back streets of Detroit. But my watching recommendation is going to be The Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith. Because I love
Will Smith. Never heard of the movie.
You've never seen it?
No, but I love Will Smith.
Watch it. It's brilliant. So I'm going to warn you, it's not a happy story to start with. It's a story of someone sinking to the bottom and refusing to quit. And I just love the mindset that goes throughout it. The no alternative but success mindset that the guy has. It's just so inspiring. Sorry?
What was the name again?
It's called The Pursuit of Happiness by and it stars Will Smith.
Amazing. Love it. Thank you so much. Love the recommendation. As you said, it's just very inspiring, isn't it? When people, they just don't quit no matter what. So yeah, fantastic.
I took a lot of that. I think it's very relatable to anyone who's trying to build a business as well. Because I don't want to give too much away, but like if you're trying to build a business and you feel like you're on that emotional roller coaster, definitely watch it. You know, it's going to help you stay true to your beliefs and stay true to your end goal and never kind of accept anything but success.
Fantastic. Love it. Love your recommendations. So thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Right, Chris, I really don't want to end this episode. I'm loving having chat with you. I love having you on the show, and I could talk to you for hours and hours and hours easily. But unfortunately, everything had to come to the end, and we have things to do this afternoon. And I really, really don't want to end this because, as I said, I'm having a great time with you. But honestly, Chris,
in Torbay later this year.
Pardon?
I said we'll catch up in Torbay later this summer.
Yeah, and then I'll invite you on a podcast episode again in the future. You'll come again.
Do it.
Chris, you were absolutely fantastic. What amount of value you added. Amazing golden nuggets you've shared. I'm sure that every single listener will find a lot and lots of value in this. So I really, really appreciate you came on the show and we finally made it. Really pleasure having you today.
Thank you.
And as I said, if I wouldn't have to go, I would continue talking to you.
Well, let's not forget the key part of your show, Lenka. I mean, I've been preparing these dance moves for you for quite some time.
Wait for that one. Right. Usually we dance because obviously podcast people can see the dance. So usually the dance happens after the actual podcast, when we say goodbye and then we do the dance, only because if you are the one who's listening, they'll be like, and now we're dancing, and they'll be like, where's the dance? We are listening. So we're just going to end, basically say goodbye for my listeners, and then we'll dance. Yeah.
Should we end the Facebook Live as well? I'm not sure if Facebook's ready for my dance moves.
I think they are ready for your dance move.
They are ready, yeah?
100% they're ready.
All right,
yeah.
We're doing it.
And just so you also know, for those who always just listen to my podcast and they never seen it on YouTube, or feel free to go on my Instagram, which is Lenk's Property Vlog, where I put my dances in the highlight stories. And just to explain to those again who doesn't know it, because as I said, we normally dance after the recording is over. What we do is that I always make my guests dance a little bit, and depends on what they do, I choose the song afterwards. So they dance without any music. So it's even more funny when we do it. And it's become a real tradition.
Just makes it really, really awkward. Like, let's do some dancing with no music.
No music. Exactly. You got it. So I can't wait to see your dance. But let's say goodbye and thank you for all the listeners. So thank you guys for listening and tuning in. As I said, and I'm sure you're gonna find lots of value. You found lots of value in this episode, Chris. It was fantastic to have you. An absolute pleasure. Awesome. You are a real inspiration. You really are fantastic and amazing what you do. And I am very pleased that you shared your story and your golden nuggets on my show today. So, and I hope to have you here again one day.
Thanks very much. Can I do a couple of shout outs before we leave?
Of course.
Awesome. So a little bit of promotion here. So like anybody who's running a service department business, if you want to get some extra bookings for your service departments, make sure you visit tradestays.co.uk and register your interest there, tradestays.co.uk, to register your interest in receiving referrals from my awesome sales team. Also like to just kind of recommend anybody who is interested in being trained, then we obviously have our training courses as well. I'm not here to pitch anything, but if you do want to learn more about that, then please feel free to reach out.
Absolutely. Tell us where people can find you, everything.
Yeah, cool. So, I mean, there's propertyabundance.info is our website. It's currently under refurb, but I think you can still get there, or you can reach out to me directly on Facebook. I'm just Chris Peel, and there's a photo of me on stage. Or I'm on Instagram at Chris Peel Property, or I'm on LinkedIn, just Chris Peel again. And I do have Clubhouse, but I'm yet to use it and venture there. So I'm not going to promote that one. But yeah, it's been a real pleasure working with you. If I can just kind of say thank you as well to a few people publicly. So big shout out to Declan, who's our latest joiner at TradeStays, doing a massive job on the sales side of things, getting loads of leads in. So great work, mate. If you see this at any stage, then thank you very much for all the work you're putting in. Big shout out to Toby up in Bedford, Chris and Natalia in Luton, Rose and Kez in Coventry and Birmingham, and Mark and Joanna in Derby. It's an absolute pleasure working with you guys. Joint venturing has been an absolute honour with you to work with you over the years, and looking forward to many more years working together as well.
Fantastic. I love that. Absolutely love it. You have a team of right people around you, and obviously, as you said, you would not achieve what you achieved completely on your own, or at least not that fast. Let's say you probably would, but not that fast. So the fact is that, yeah, you have a right team around you. That's very, very important. So well done for your achievements and everything. As I said, you're a real inspiration, and it's just fantastic to watch, and I can't wait to watch more of your journey and seeing and watching you becoming a millionaire.
Thanks, Lenka. All right. Well, look, it's been a pleasure chatting to you as well.
And thank you so much again for coming, and I'm sure I'll see you soon. Bye.
Okay, so are you ready to go live?
Oh, it was like, I feel good today. I feel clean today.
Clean cow kind of a day. We don't want just friends, do we?
No.